I grew up in the suburb of Atlanta, in Roswell, Georgia, and I grew up with my mom, my dad, and my sister. And my parent, I grew up in a Methodist, very Methodist family. My parents met in youth group, and I grew up attending my local Methodist church. I also grew up in the dance studio, training to be a professional ballet dancer. So when I was 14, I went away to boarding school to study dance here at Interlochen Arts Academy in Michigan. And during that time, I still attended Methodist church, but I was really focused on dance. And it's interesting, I never really felt like dance was where I was called to be in my life. It was something I kind of happened to do well, and people would say, you should do it. It's a God given gift. But I always kind of felt called to something else. So it's, no wonder that I ended up in seminary. Um, my parents, like I said, met in youth group, and generations back, I have pastors in the evangelical and Church of the Brethren branches of Methodism. So it's just kind of in my blood. I'm definitely a Methodist, born and bred. I was a student at Candler School of Theology, Emory University. I believe it was my first year, and I was kind of interviewing around to see what my contextual education placement would be for my second year. And so I met with Reverend Dr. Susan Henry Crow, who at the time was the Dean of Religious Life there at Emory University, and was just talking about my kind of vocational discernment and my calling. And I kind of knew I didn't want to go into ordained ministry, but I wanted to be in service to the Methodist Church somehow. She said, well, check out the Deaconesses. And I was like, what are those? So she gave me the website. And so I looked at the website and saw that there was a discernment event coming up. So I applied to attend that, flew to New York, attended a discernment event, learned about the Deaconess movement and the more of the history of it, and really connected with the stories and the work of my Deaconess sisters who had come before me, and was really just said, I don't know, sometimes things click and you're like, this is what I need to do, this is my calling. I don't know what kind of work I'm going to do, but I'm going to apply and see what happens. And at the time I remember I went to lunch there in New York City with Becky Lauder, who at that time was the executive for the Deaconess office. And we talked, and she was like, I think you would be a great addition to the community. So I applied and went through the process, and I was consecrated a deaconess at UMW Assembly in 2010 in St. Louis.